So sometimes when a new set is spoiled, I'll look through the list of cards and there might be a particular card that catches my attention. This has happened in the past a few times with things like Surge of Salvation, Bushwhack, Starlight Spectacular, and I've made some videos discussing my thoughts on these cards. And I was looking through the spoilers for Wilds of Eldraine, and there was definitely a card that caught my attention. So we're going to talk about that card today. We have Gruff Triplets. Now the set isn't out yet, so today I've got this nice proxy that I've made up to use just for the sake of the video. But let's take a look at this card. So it's a creature. It's a 6 mana, 3 green, Satyr Warrior. It's a 3/3. So a 6 drop, that is pretty high, but as you'll see, it's a pretty powerful card. So it has Trample. When it enters the battlefield, if it isn't a token, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. When it dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on each creature you control named Gruff Triplets. We've seen cards similar to this in the past, maybe some blue cards. I believe there's one in one of the commander decks where it starts out big and then it splits into smaller things when it dies. This is kind of the opposite, where you get 3 kind of small things, and when they die, your other ones get bigger. But what makes this really powerful is that it doesn't just make one bigger, it makes every one of these cards bigger, named Gruff Triplets. So you can do some pretty busted things with this card if you could maybe flicker it, but even on its base rate, we'll see just how it works here. So say you pay your 6 mana, you play it, it comes into play with 2 copies of it right here. So immediately, for 6 mana, you have 9 power and toughness over 3 creatures with Trample. That alone is a very good rate. And your opponent will have to answer these in some way or another. So let's say you just attack in with your 3/3s. Individually, they're not that big, so your opponent could just block them. Let's say they block and one of them dies then. So one of these is going to die, and when it dies, it says, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on each creature you control named Gruff Triplets. Since it was a 3/3, your remaining 2 get 3 +1/+1 counters, and now you have 2 6/6s. Those are much harder to deal with in combat now, so your opponent might have to spend a removal spell to take care of them. So let's say they use a removal spell, they kill one of your things. Now when this dies, you're going to put 6 more +1/+1 counters on your remaining one, bringing it up to a total of 12 power and toughness. Still with Trample, by the way. So now in order to take care of this, they're going to need to use another removal spell, because basically nothing is beating this in combat. So by playing this just on its base rate, you've basically made your opponent burn 2 resources to kill 2 of these, but you're still left with a 12/12 Trample. So your opponent's got you down to the 1 left, maybe they're about to take care of it. What happens if you just followed up with another one, because they're not legendary? So you play another, it comes into play with its 2 copies. Now your opponent still has to deal with this one, but if they do, this will die, and every one of these other ones is going to get 12 +1/+1 counters, bring them all up to 15 power and toughness. So at this point you can probably kind of see where I'm going with this, is this just trades up for you incredibly well while your opponent is spending resources to take care of these. Your things just get better. So the only real clean way to take care of this card is by playing a Wrath and destroying all creatures at once. So in this scenario, I was playing multiple copies of it, so that would be in like a standard Pioneer Modern thing. I don't expect this will do anything in Pioneer or Modern. I do think it could get there in Standard, especially with some other cards that could kind of abuse this effect a little bit. One way would be to flicker it, so say you play it just like this, and you use a flicker effect, so something that exiles a creature then returns it to play. There are good flicker effects in Standard right now, something like Guardian of Girapur. You could play this, exile your Gruff Triplets, at end of turn it comes back, and then you get 2 more copies of it. And at that point, outside of playing a Wrath, what is your opponent supposed to do? You know, if you don't deal with them, you're just going to attack in with your 3/3s and you can win the game that way. But if they do deal with them, they have to kind of do it all at once. Otherwise, you're just going to get massive creatures. And still, the key thing here is that they all have Trample. And in Standard, you also have another good flicker effect here in Touch the Spirit Realm. What about outside of Standard, though? What if we look at it in terms of Commander. So for 6 mana in Commander, you can do some pretty powerful things, but I feel like this is actually up there with those powerful things in the right deck. In Commander, you have some really good flicker effects. Even something like this you could put in any deck, Conjurer's Closet. Just as simple as at the end of each of your turns, you can exile this, get it back, and get extra copies of your tokens here. Or if you're not playing flicker effects, another way to get extra copies is you could be playing clone effects, something like Phyrexian Metamorph. Have that just come in as a clone of this, and there you go, you have your extra copies again. And one really powerful thing you can do with this card is to pair it with instant speed sacrifice effects. There are many of them in Commander. We'll use Altar of Dementia for this example. And right now we're getting a little bit into theoretical magical Christmas land board states. And it looks like we have a ton of stuff here, but this is actually only 3 cards that we've played. So let's say you attack in with all 6 of your copies of Gruff Triplets. They have no counters on them. You could use Altar of Dementia at instant speed to sacrifice 1. Since it has 3 power, you're going to put 3 +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures. At least all the ones named Gruff Triplets. So you've now milled someone for 3, and you have 30 power and toughness left on board. That right there is pretty close to being enough to take someone out of the game. But then what if you sacrifice another one? You sacrifice this, you put 6 more +1/+1 counters on the rest of your creatures. So you've now milled someone for 9, and now you have 48 power and toughness on the field. Let's do it again. Let's sacrifice another. Now we're going to put 12 more counters on these remaining 3 creatures. So now with your altar, you've milled someone for 21 cards, and you have 72 power and toughness in play. Let's do it again. Let's sack another. We're going to put 24 more counters on these remaining 2 creatures. So now you've milled someone for 45 cards with altar, and you have 2 creatures in play, both of which are 48/48 tramplers. At this point, this could end the game because each one of these could be lethal. Then after damage, you can sacrifice another to mill out the remaining opponent. And then just to finish the math here, what if you sacrifice this remaining one? You'll put 48 counters on your last creature, and you have a 96 trampler. I was doing a lot of math there. I think it was right, but if I was wrong, just let me know. But regardless, it's a big number. So as I said, that's kind of an ideal fantasy scenario, but once again, that's just with 3 cards. But even without any of that stuff, this card alone, you just play it, and it's good. The main reason being that your opponent has to spend resources to take care of these things, and each time they do that, they're going down resources, but your things are getting bigger. So this is the card that I wanted to talk about from Wilds of Eldraine. I'm pretty excited to play with it. Let me know your thoughts on it. Is there a particular deck that you might want to try it in? Or does it seem like maybe I'm kind of overhyping this card a little bit? But anyway though, if you're still watching, thanks for watching. It'd be cool if you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I'd encourage everyone to come join my Discord server. You can find a link to that in the video description below. And in the video description, you can also find my affiliate links for Dragon Shield in case you'd like to purchase any gaming supplies. You can follow those affiliate links and help out the channel while you do so. And also, if you'd like to purchase any Magic cards, you can get those by going to face2facegames.com. They're a sponsor of the channel. They're also the largest Magic store in Canada. If you use code 8thPlaceDavid at checkout, you can save 5% on your order. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all the patrons who support me on Patreon. But otherwise though, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.